Welcome to Stepping Stones, the 2019 Thistle Quilt Guild show. Our home is in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. We meet at the Westville Recreation Centre to quilt, learn from each other, and very importantly, to create and maintain friendships. Our show is in the Westville Civic Centre Gymnasium. Come in and join us. Mary Wadden and Linda Crosby are waiting to greet you and accept the small fee that we charge for the show. If you would like to examine the quilts closely, please take a glove or two for that purpose. The characters in the little hanging did not wear their gloves when touching the quilts. The welcome hanging pretty much speaks for itself. We have a beautiful quilt to raffle on June 5th. Norma McCara made the top and our guild members hand quilted it. You can purchase a ticket for $1. If you see a hand pinned to a quilt, you will know that it's been hand quilted. If not, it has been quilted by machine. Sometimes people machine quilt their own quilts. Others contract this job out to people with large quilting machines. We will start our tour with some large quilts. The black, white, and yellow one is the work of Deborah Battis. Next to it, the purple and yellow log cabin quilt was made by Diane Gordon. The log cabin in green and gold is the work of Joan Waters, and the one in cream and blue was made by Linda Crosby. Juanita Atkins is responsible for Dress to the Nines with its large stars, and beside it is Mary Wadden's arrowhead quilt in rust and cream. The children's quilt by Mary Jean Campbell is called 1, 2, 3, 4. The turquoise and pink next up is Sheila Monroe's On Ringo Lake. Diane Gordon made a black, white, and red chevron quilt for her grandson. He set up the specs and she followed them. He's very happy with it. The next brightly colored eye-catcher is the work of Grace Paris and is called Scrappy Jewel Box. Under the Burgundy Stars started its life as Mary Wadden's block of the month, but Mary decided to go in a different direction with it and made a beautiful job of it. Coming back around to look at the quilts behind us, we see that they are set up in alcoves made of racking. The small decorative rack, set apart from the large ones, shows a string star quilt made by Ellen Peters. Juanita Atkins' quilt, all around the carpenter's star, is reminiscent of fall colors in tans and greens. Beside it is a lap-sized Dresden plate quilt, showing off its cooler tones. A creative log cabin wall hanging made by Anne Tacart shows off a heart in the center. Very, very pretty. Lady in Gold is a beautifully framed panel made into a quilt by Rebecca McCallum. Next to it is a bright petite quilt by Margaret Milne called Flower Garden. Black and white quilts are usually dramatic, and this one by Neva McClellan is no exception to that rule. In contrast, we have a colorful 9-patch next to it by Carol McNeil. Live, laugh, love. A great sentiment and a beautiful quilt from the hands and needles of Linda Crosby. Careful now as you round the corner. Don't trip over the rack supports. One of the reasons for the pretty decorations is to provide an element of safety, and they also look very nice. Our next alcove is around that corner. The many small pieces of this color flow scrap quilt took a lot of patience, and that is something that Norma McCara is known for. Scrappy quilts use a lot of different colors and sometimes a variety of patterns. They are a really good way to use up scraps and usually have a neutral background fabric to tie the colors together. Following in the same theme, the next door neighbor is String Quilt Scrappy by Ellen Peters. All these hexagons make up Grandmother's Garden, pieced by our former member, the late Carol Crabtree, and finished by Eileen Betts. Carol must have had the patience of Job to put all these hexagons together. E-I-E-I-O is a baby quilt made by Jane MacDonald. Next to it resides another one of Carol Crabtree's tops, quilted by Margaret Milne. Diane Gordon made a field of sunflowers with bas relief. Look closely so you see the detail. The sunflowers are in 3D. Poppy Sunset is by Deborah Battis and gloriously colorful. Coming up next, we have a snowball quilt with an inset scene of curved piecing by Carol McNeil. A baby quilt by Deborah Battis is called Sleepy Bears, and it will comfort someone's sleepy little one on a cold night. The pattern on this bed runner is called Card Trick, and it is thanks to Alice Marie West that we get to see this pattern. As we come back to the entry again, we see Cindy Knight's something blue. It is carefully constructed with many tiny pieces. Beside it is Carol Jackson's paper piece, The Cat and the Singer. Carol really wanted to make this quilt, so first she had to become very good at paper piecing by making an awful lot of smaller projects. Perhaps we should have road signs on these laneways. It would make navigation easier. Some of our ladies make shawls for warmth, maybe for themselves, often for family members a bit older and a bit colder than themselves. They are usually lined with polar fleece. This one is Cheryl McIntosh's handiwork. Look to your right and you will see another one of these pretty shawls made by Alice Marie West. It has thistles, representative of our guild. Note the people admiring the quilts. A small doll is ready to give directions, but you will have to listen very closely. All around the Carpenter's Star is a splendid medallion quilt by Deborah Battis. It is also cheery with its yellow tones. Mary Jean Campbell made a quilt called Cabbage Patch Roses. The pretty reds would be a lovely addition to Valentine's Day or Christmas. The black and white rendition of the arrowhead pattern is also Mary Jean's handiwork. Blue Jay Way by Ellen Peters hangs next to a cat quilt made by Jewel Dorrington. Good thing the birds are on skinny branches too thin to support the weight of those cats. Peony Garden is a well-executed example of a simple quilt with a stunning result. A child's sewing machine reminds us of the simple beginnings of our passion for sewing. Susan Sangster joined us fairly recently and obviously knows what she's doing. She created this pretty quilt with matching pillow and a set of pillowcases as a gift for her son. Don't the stars on Donna Thompson's quilt look like they should be snuggled up to the quilt beside it? It is called Swoon. Pay attention now. We'll be turning another corner. Look closely at the small wooden quilt rack. On it you see a display of small quilts, bags, and even a mat made from fabric. This is similar to, but not the same as, a braided rug. The intricate pattern in golds and greens is called Valley of the Kings. Deborah Battis has set it off with a border that goes perfectly with the quilt pattern. Anta Carrick made her own pattern for this beach-themed quilt for someone very special to her. The bright red quilt has a very creative name. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was made by Deborah Battis. The creamy rail fence pattern quilt with its gently quilted swirls is a work of Betty Richards. Cheryl McIntosh has done a lovely job of her disappearing 9-patch hanging beside it. We turn the corner and head down another quilt lane. It's rather nice to take a moment to notice the widespread array of quilts in front of us. Variations by Kim Bland does show quite a few variations on color and tone, and a beautifully made quilt. This disappearing 9-patch was made by Marilyn Murray, and with its pretty and pink colors looks so different from Cheryl McIntosh's poshly purple version. Skulls for Herlo is Rebecca McCallum's colorful quilt, made with fabric featuring skulls for a friend who really likes skulls on her fabric. We see the variations pattern again at this end of the racking. This contrasty variation is by Betty Richards. We are at the end of the row of quilts. Our decorative holder sports a purse decorated with kitty cats. Many of our quilters have pet cats that like to keep them company in their sewing rooms. Unfortunately, their fur likes to stay with the quilts too. We are turning the corner again. There are lots of lanes in this room. This wooden coat rack has been repurposed to a bag rack. We have some lovely bags made by our members. Quilting methods are used in the construction so they qualify as quilted items. Wilma Jenkins taught a class on how to make this bag from an original pattern of hers. It's a very popular pattern and a very popular workshop with our members. Ann Maddie is a fan of quilt designer and teacher Karen Neary. She has taught several workshops using Karen's patterns. This one's called Maritime Beauty. It is intricate and uses a method called paper piecing. This involves stitching fabric to paper and then layering it and peeling the paper off when the stitching is done. It helps get those beautifully sharp points. As we move along, you can see more bags, wall hangings, and baby quilts. These are lovingly crafted and often take a long time to make. Can you picture this barn scene on a child's bedroom wall? The hummingbirds in this hanging will likely have been paper pieced to get this accuracy. Panels with prints of favorite cartoon characters are very popular. Grandchildren are usually the recipients of these items. In this frame, we get a glimpse of more bags. A beautiful red runner by Alice West, and Rita Badu made a memory quilt for her sister using film strips to show off the photo prints on the fabric. I bet her sister just loves it. This old sewing machine will bring back memories for many of us as it guards the base of the racking to keep us from falling over it. More lovely paper-pieced wall hangings are on display here. Cindy Knight did a great job of the one with the large center medallion, along with some very creative strip-piece table mats by Margaret Milne. Margaret showed us how to use up scraps in a very creative way. She suggested that they would make very good hostess gifts, and I think she was right. We are all ready to head down another lane. This pretty shawl in brown tones is the work of Wilma Jenkins. Here we can see part of the top of a quilt of valor. The squares are made by guild members and pieced together to make a top. It will be sent to the Canadian Quilters Association to be quilted and then presented to a wounded Canadian soldier or veteran in appreciation for that person's service. What a wealth of wall hangings, bags, tea towels, purses, runners. Kate Anderson embroidered panels for a sweet wall hanging at the top center, outlined in pink. Janice Dion finished a UFO, an unfinished object, with this daffodil hanging that was paper pieced. Most of these small pieces take much longer to make than you might think. Let's have a closer look at the detail of the hand embroidery on Kate's piece. All of this work deserves to be appreciated. Moving along, we see more of this detailed work. The beautiful cross wall hanging at the center of this view is called The Garden and is the work of Norma McCara. It was made from small squares, carefully chosen to make the quilt look as if it was done as a watercolor. Anne Maddie made this great sewing basket for our library challenge. We will talk more about the library challenge in a little while. It looks good from the inside too. More colorful hangings are here for your viewing enjoyment. Can't you just see one a little boy would love? Look at all the heavy equipment moving along the road. The Celtic knot above it is a tedious construction method. It requires a lot of precision and hand sewing, and this beautiful example was made by Helen MacLeod. Through the Ruins wall is an interesting piece. Anne Maddie used a picture of a hole through a rock wall as inspiration for a small hanging. At first glance, it isn't easy to tell which is the picture and which is the quilted piece. Eagles have become prevalent in our area. Now they're at the quilt show. More hangings and purses abound. We are moving into the holiday theme area as we see quilts with a Halloween theme appear before us. We have another coat rack repurposed to hold more pretty purses. We will swing around and look at the quilts on the far side of this laneway. You have likely heard of Christmas in July. That is because crafty people start making Christmas gifts and decorations in July to have them prepared for the holidays to come. We have Christmas in May at our show. As we look at the Christmas display, you will see small quilts, some lap quilts, wall hangings, runners, decorative bits, large quilts, and ornaments. The first quilt with the appliqued snowman was made by Jewel Dorrington. Some members make pillows, others set their hand to gift bags. Frosty Friends Flannelette Quilt by Juanita Atkins is spreading cheery warmth in red, white, and gray, while Darlene Baker McDonald's Snowman Collector peeks out from behind the Christmas tree. Our members were challenged to each make an ornament for the Christmas tree. Quite a few of them complied. Note the creative use of spools. There are even some vintage wooden spools present. There are ornaments made from fabric, felt, and styrofoam. We have hand-embroidered and machine-embroidered ornaments. Some are painstakingly stitched. Note the small cube made out of miniature log cabin squares. The fabric was not printed like this. It has been stitched together. Gloria Turnbull is the patient quilter responsible for this decoration. A diligent member made sure we had a pretty tree skirt to finish off this display. Next to the Snowman Collector, we see Margot Fleury's quilt, Love Will Keep Us Warm. There are several quilts celebrating our snowy friends, and I Love Snow by Juanita Atkins is one of them. Shadowbox Santa is a contribution from Deborah Battist. He is busy spreading presents around a tree. Let's take a closer look at the cardinals in the tree. It has been machine embroidered and given a little boost in texture with a substance called puffy foam. Atomic Starburst was pieced by Juanita Atkins. It has a lovely spray of diamonds and stars, and it looks very celebratory hanging here. Cold Night, Warm Hearts started out as a panel, and Norma McCara made it magnificent by adding trees and a profusion of snow and shadow to it, and then she quilted it beautifully. We'll get a little closer so you can see the detail. See how she used curved pieces to create light and shadow? Look below these larger quilts and you will see some pretty smaller pieces that can be used as runners or wall hangings. Claudette Campbell embroidered some happy little snowmen. This is a form of embroidery called blue work. We have matched the colors well to the larger quilts. The Christmas tree quilt is aptly named Forest of Trees and was placed here for our viewing pleasure by Deborah Battist. Dale Roddick is celebrating winter activities with a sled by a barn in the Country Holiday Quilt. The Magic Tile Quilt, made with Christmas fabrics, was created by Rita Badu. Joan Waters has some cheery snowmen peeking out of a dark night in her last large Christmas quilt. We will work our way back down the laneway and look at the smaller and beautiful pieces we missed while admiring the larger items on the wall. Table runners are a nice touch when it comes to Christmas decorating. Along with runners, we have small hangings and table mats for making Christmas tables look more festive. Candle mats and small hangings decorate corners. Holiday pillows are a welcome addition, and this deer isn't eating our plants. We have an assortment of Christmas placemats and some nicely decorated tea towels. There is a cute little sewing machine added for interest. A holiday snowman adds a little extra punch to our table decoration. Although not full-sized quilts, these pretty runners, hangings, and other decorated items help to create a holiday atmosphere without overpowering our visual sense. Sometimes we want a subtle decoration. One or two of these would add a little pop to your home at Christmas. We are at the end of our tour of Christmas in May. Christmas in December looks promising for the Quilt Guild members. Quilt Guild members took part in a project called Block of the Month. Ann Maddie was the driving force behind this project, and the participation was impressive. For this project, we are showing some tops that were finished but not quilted. Check the detail, differences in style, color, and pattern as we pass these quilts. Anne found several blocks for us to make each month so we could get the quilt ready for the show. It also helps to keep people interested. In September, she started with a large center block referred to as a medallion block. That would be the focus of the quilt. By October, we were expected to have the medallion block finished and be ready for the next step of our journey with this quilt. Anne was determined that the quilt be individual and pleasing to the maker, so if you didn't like a block, you were to find something else to replace it. Most blocks were found on Quilters Cache, a free pattern site for quilt blocks. There were lots of helpful hints and instruction given to help with the construction. You are encouraged to add sashing around the squares, make them look like shadow boxes. Add several different borders, add more squares to make the quilts bigger. Do whatever you needed to do to make the quilt pleasing to you. A few ladies put theirs on point, meaning they positioned the squares to be diamond-shaped squares by rotating them 45 degrees. It's a fairly challenging construction method. The variety is great, and it is difficult to believe that they have mostly the same patterns for the squares. Didn't the ladies do a wonderful job? Wilma Jenkins took the largest amount of creative license and nearly drove herself mad in the process. Good thing she's really far from the edge. She made the bottom rounded like a bedspread. Squares are on point and have shadow box sashing around them. The border is appliqué and it is beautiful. We were all very impressed. Now we will take a trip to the opposite end of the room. Across the front of the stage, you will see lots of quilted items from our year's workshops and challenges. Take a good long look at what is spread out before you. The first few quilts are from a workshop taught by Isabel Mason called Scrap Basket Blues. Here are more scrap basket blues quilts leading into quilts from stripes and border prints. Joanne Swanson taught us that workshop. The ladies had a lot of fun with these. Joanne even had fabric that you could buy in case you weren't able to find the appropriate yardage. You can see there's quite a variety in how these quilts look, even though they use the same pattern. We have a nice library full of books, magazines, and patterns, all about quilting. We also have a librarian. Linda Spurzio takes her job seriously and issued a challenge for everyone to make something from a library resource. Many took up that challenge. There are some purses that came out of our Nothing to Fear with Zippers workshop. Zippers can be scary. Have you ever gotten flesh cotton one? You won't when Janice Dion teaches you how to put one in properly. There are lots of lovely pillows in a great number of sizes and so many beautiful finishes. We will take a closer look. We are starting to see runners and wall hangings now. There's a basket made of woven fabric. It was Wilma Jenkins' answer to the library challenge. Quite a different concept, and fittingly, it holds the sign to show what this part of the display is about. The wall hanging with the navy edging creating diamond shapes was Linda Spurzio's answer to her challenge. She avows that it was much more difficult than she expected it to be. Often things work out that way. They are rarely easier than one expects. We are seeing a hanging of paper piece daylilies, the handiwork of Ellen Peters, and a definite challenge to complete. The sweet wall hanging applique with a squirrel and a bird for interest was made by Kate Anderson. We finish up the view of the challenge items with a few more pretty pillows. Gloria Turnbull, our president, and Ann Maddie, our workshop coordinator, are very happy to be with you on your tour of our show. This pair is a lot of fun to be around. This year we decided we would have a spot for members to sell items. We often have guests ask if we have anything for sale. Well, this year we did, and we sold things, so it was a good idea. This is quite the table full of quilts. There are big ones and small ones. You see microwave bowl holders, a great way to keep from getting burned by grabbing a hot bowl. There are pin cushions and pictures, runners, placemats, mug mats, which is a smaller version of a placemat. Pretty much anything you can quilt. Let's turn around and come back at the table from a different angle to see if we can get a better look. There are even a few handcrafted items that are not quilted. We can see a table full of books and magazines. Regarding our library, we have a limit on how long we keep them. Once they reach their due date, we sell them. Members also donate to this sale table. This resource is priced to sell. Some of our members make things that are not really quilted, as well as making lovely quilts. We thought it would be nice to show off these other handcrafted items too. Here we have embroidery work, some framed, some made into quilted panels. There are covers for small cutting mats, and the covers look like they could do dual duty as iPad covers. We also have decorative pillowcases. Guild members make a lot of these. Local charities have been the recipients of many of them. You will also see small bags to help keep one's bits and pieces organized. We have a sweet wire rack to display an equally sweet embroidered panel. Here are a couple framed panels of crazy quilting, featuring hand and ribbon embroidery. Look at these pretty warm mitts someone made. There are lovely candle mats for any occasion. With this nifty needle holder, you have a spot to keep all of those different needle types and sizes, where you can find the right needle in seconds instead of having to poke around for ages in a drawer or a box as if looking for a needle in a haystack. Shopping is an important part of a quilt show. Our vendors reside on the gymnasium's stage. Spruce It Up is one of our merchants. The ladies do like to shop around for fabric and tools that are a bit different from what they are used to. We do a lot of shopping locally. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of spice though. Our other merchant is Mum's Quiltique. Look at some of the interesting notions for sale. Let us serve you. Tea and a sweet are included with your ticket price. Join us in the tea room to the left of the stage. A dash of love and kindness to last throughout the day, 1 spoon of creativity to use in any way. 2 heaping spoons of laughter adds a special touch. Combine it with a smile. You can never put in too much. If you choose to add a twist, you can always add a friend. Stir these things together and you'll have the perfect blend. The tea room is well advertised. We have lots of decorative bits of quilting spread around the room for your viewing pleasure. Jewel Dorrington has a seasoned crew of workers staffing the tea room. Last year, members made cute pincushions for the center of the tables. This year, they added a little table mat with thistles appliqued as a decoration. Some of our members have been doing Swedish weaving. You see it displayed among some of the quilted bits. A little recap is in order. It is always nice to look at the show from the stage. This panoramic view is quite impressive. We gave out a door prize every hour, and one of our diligent members captured a few of the winners on digital film. Some shows have judges for the quilts. These are called juried shows. We do not have judges. We ask our guests to vote on their favorite quilt. At the end of the show, the votes are counted and a winner declared. Norma McCara's quilt, Cold Night, Warm Hearts, was the choice of our viewers. Gloria Turnbull, our guild president, congratulated Norma on her win. Thank you to everyone who helped put the show together. To Claudette Campbell and Mary Jean Campbell for coordinating all of our efforts to make the show a success. Thank you to those of you who attended. It wouldn't be much of a show if no one came to see it. We had fun, and we hope you did too. Save a spot on your calendar May 30th, 2020 to come see us next year.